thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on why they like being in Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have my guest, Miss Michelle, with us today. Michelle, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Macy, for asking me to be on your podcast.
Of course. Well, Michelle and I know each other through the Bold Ladies. We met at one of the Coffee Connections, which is a really great meeting that you can go to if you're a part of the Bold Ladies networking group, just to get to know a little bit more intimate, just get to know the basics of the Bold Ladies and also meet someone. It's not as loud at those Coffee Connections, which is super, super great. And yeah, Michelle came up and we started talking, and then we found out that we have a lot of common, I guess I don't know what to say, like common cultural backgrounds, which is super cool to learn. Because your husband Michelle is from India, and then my dad's from India. You've been to India, I think, a lot more times than I have. So I think you're the expert on India in the call here today.
That'll be another podcast.
Exactly, yeah. Well, Michelle, I'd love for you to kind of get us started a little bit and talk a little bit about coming here to Flagler to Palm Coast, and what has that journey been like for you?
Okay, wow. Well, I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and I found my way to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I met my husband. And he's now retired, but at the time he was a general surgeon. And we moved down to South Central Kentucky, where he worked at a very small hospital. And along with that, I worked for a big corporation in Cincinnati, American Financial. I was in the admin and the finance department. And in about 2001, I was very fortunate enough to be able to leave that and go on to study yoga and meditation. So in 2001, I got my first yoga teacher training certification and have continued with numerous certifications all throughout the years. But in the meanwhile, my husband and I moved down to South Central Kentucky, and then we connected with a yoga ashram that's located in Ocala, Silver Springs, in the Ocala National Forest. And we were doing wellness retreats and programs there, like once a month for about 9 months out of the year. So we were flying back and forth from Kentucky to Florida. And then when my husband decided to fully retire, we thought, hey, let's move to Florida. So we wanted to be within a certain mile radius of the Ocala National Forest. So I just dropped a pin, got on Google, and then I blew up this search. And at the time, I wasn't licensed as a realtor, so I used that other company and searched for properties and houses, et cetera, et cetera. And my good friend who's a broker up in St. Augustine introduced us to a realtor here on this side of town. So we came over and looked at properties here in Flagler, down in Volusia, in Ormond, and then I fell in love with Palm Coast. It was big enough, but small enough. And then being from Long Island, and me, when I did my search, I was just so focused on the distance from the Yoga Institute that I didn't realize how close the beach was. so we were going up to meet my friend up in St. Augustine for lunch, and we decided to go A1A. And we're driving over the A1A bridge, over the Moody Boulevard Flagler Bridge there. And I just turned to my husband and said, this is a no-brainer. This is where the beach is. This is where I was raised on the beach.
Yeah.
I was thrown in the water to swim before my parents taught me how to walk, So anyway, so here we are. We looked at a lot of different properties, and then we ended up building. And I've been here since 2014. We built in a community off of Colbert Lane known as Grand Haven, and we just love it here. The weather, for the most part, as we know, 9-10 months out of the year is pretty good. I've embraced bicycle riding a lot this last year, so I'm out on all our beautiful trails. We like to walk, so we have the walking trails.
Mm-hmm.
Being in Kentucky, we lived on a big lake and we had a boat and a couple jet skis, which we had to leave all behind. But we found this company here called Freedom Boat Club. So we joined them so we can get out on a boat without all the hassle of owning a boat. So
Mm.
we loved going out on the water. We like the wildlife, the activities, the community. We just find it really peaceful and all here.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's how I got here.
that's so fun. Oh my gosh. I also really love that you met your husband in Ohio, I feel like of all places, because my parents
Yeah.
met in like the suburbs of Michigan too, which is
Oh,
like
that's
next
funny.
door in the
Uh-huh.
Midwest.
Well, that's a funny story because my sister worked with my husband in surgery, and
Oh.
my sister actually set us up. So I owe it all to her. And Mardi Gras was 29 years since we've been together, since the first
What?
day we met,
Oh,
actually, on Fat
congrats.
Tuesday. Yes.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents were also they were set up via mutual friends.
Uh-huh.
So there you go. It's so funny how similar people's stories can be when it comes to things like these.
Yeah, yeah. So we landed here in Palm Coast, and we continued to do the wellness programs over at the Yoga Institute, and then we kind of shifted away from that, and we started doing some here. And we rented a facility over in Flagler Beach where we ran our wellness retreats, and then in 2020, we bought a house to use for the retreats.
Oh,
And I was kind of getting, feeling like it was time for a change. I've been
sure.
doing these treats for a long time. My husband was all set up with his staff. I felt like I need to do a little something different. So I ended up, I was really heavily involved in the house part of it. We bought this property as an investment, and I was using it as an Airbnb. So I was really, really kind of hands on and really enjoying all that. And somebody suggested to me about going into real estate. So it was in the middle of the pandemic, and I was able to, start my courses and all up in St. Augustine, and I got my license, and I've been doing that ever since.
Awesome.
So
That's it's
yeah,
so funny how you think of some things and then the universe just kind of starts sending you these signs and be like, hey, maybe like starts nudging you in these directions. But
right,
it's also important that we're aware of what is in front of us and taking advantage of those like you guys did and
right,
also getting your license because it's so easy to be like, well, I don't know. That doesn't sound like something I want to do and just kind of move
right,
on.
right,
Um,
right.
yeah. So, I mean, you're really active in the community. What are some of the ways that you kind of like to get out there? I mean, I feel like when people are in real estate, they get overwhelmed really quickly. Like, there are so many other realtors out there, blah, 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 blah. I can't make it. I can't do it. What are some of the things that you like to do as a realtor that you're like, oh, I don't know if other people do it, but I really enjoy this part of my process?
Well, I have to admit, I've only had my license a few years, so
Right.
I am still learning, and I do find that really interesting about the whole real estate process. And
Mhm.
I've worked with buyers and sellers, and I've had maybe one first time home buyer, and that was really exciting to be on that journey with somebody. But I'm a very detailed person, and um, I think sometimes I'm not overly aggressive. I'm just
Mm,
kind of a little more laid back and subdued. I'm not a high pressure type person, but
yeah.
one thing that I found interesting is no deal has been the same. And
Oh,
it's fascinating because there's always something to learn if you're working with somebody that's taking out a loan or if it's a cash buyer, those kinds of things. So, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how to distinguish myself. But I
mhm.
think, as they say, people will work with you if they know you, like you, and trust you. And
Right.
I'm trustworthy, and
Yeah.
that's that's where I am with that. I
Yeah.
still I taught some yoga here, and one thing I just want to mention is I'm still teaching. I do a free class at Advent Health
Oh,
Hospital
right.
for
Yeah.
women with cancer on Tuesday mornings, and myself and a couple other teachers have joined me to help me out with that load. So I really feel that that's important to give back. So that's kind of my give back, and
Mhm.
um, I really do enjoy the real estate. And as we can all say, it can be a little overwhelming. Oh, there's so many of us out there, but um, there's also a lot of buyers and sellers.
Right.
So I would just tell people, just like with my yoga classes, I would say, try me out. When if I don't click, don't give up on that. If
Hmm.
we didn't click, don't give up on the practice because
Right.
I know it'll benefit you. You're not going to
Hmm.
hurt my feelings if you work with somebody else. And that's
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, how I feel here. We're all different types and personalities. And so I,
Yeah.
I, I'm not cutthroat and, that's not my approach.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, and I think when someone has the client's best interest in mind, no matter
Mhm.
what the outcome will be, that's the person who's going to be successful, you know? The person
Exactly.
who's like, "Hey, there are a lot of real estate agents, so I want to make sure that I can service you the best. And if I can't, I know other people who can, and I can help you steer you at least in the right direction." And I think that's something that I've learned a lot as well for myself and working with other people, is that's the feeling I want people to leave my calls with or leave interactions with me with, is I just want to make sure I can service them in the best way possible, whether that's together or apart. That's what's most important to me, and that's my number one value in life and in business. And I think it's really important when someone brings that up, is that's what you want to focus on. And I love that part that you brought up, and it's so cool that what you do at Advent as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one other thing too is um, I'm not afraid to say, I don't know. I will find
Oh,
that out for you
yeah.
instead of giving somebody wrong information or misinformation that in the end could have really bad repercussions. I'm not afraid to say I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will find that out for you.
That's the
So
kicker of it, you know,
mhm,
it's admitting, I think admitting mistakes and then admitting when you just don't know enough. I'm like, I
exactly.
think this is a great question. I'm so glad you brought this up. I will help you find an answer. I will go find that answer for you because I probably
Exactly.
can't answer this in the best way that services you. Um,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
so we met through the Bold Ladies here in Flagler. What would you recommend for newbies in the Flagler area or Palm Coast area on maybe places they can go in Flagler or Palm Coast, places they can go to get more interactive with the community, events, groups,
Mhm.
communities, things like that?
Okay, well, I know there are, if you're in business, obviously, if you're a business owner and a female, I would say the Bold Ladies. But I myself have come across different groups on Facebook. There's like I think like a Ladies of Flagler County, and on Palm Coast Parkway, there's a community center, Palm Coast Community Center, and they have a lot of adult and children recreational activities there. And there's the new community center opening up on Belterre. Actually, I think the grand opening is this weekend.
Oh,
So I would say that. And there's different clubs. Google is such a great resource, I think, or the internet, I should say, for some
yeah.
things is a great resource because you can find almost anything. I don't have children, so for small kids and all, I'm sure there's the sports activities in schools where those
Hmm.
for the kids, but some people find their way through different, playing cards or maybe their church group. There's a
Yeah.
wonderful volunteer flagler
Oh,
is a or no, it's either Flagler. I think it's
okay.
flaglervolunteer.org, and all of the organizations out here are always looking for volunteers, and that's something else I started doing this year at the Dennis Fitzgerald Performing Arts Center. I
Oh,
volunteer as an usher, and throughout the season. So that's been fun to,
Yeah.
assist people there and get to see a show. And
Yeah. Those
yeah,
are
so
so
there's a
cool.
mhm,
Yeah. There's so much to do in Palm Coast and Flagler that I feel
right.
like I've asked a lot of people this question, and obviously the number one answer I get is, go find a charity that you enjoy or cause
Yes.
that
Hmm.
you can go support. And that's really where you can build so many connections, like you mentioned. And I mean, I didn't even realize that they need volunteers at the performing arts. And that sounds like, it definitely sounds like an environment a lot of people would enjoy to just
Hmm.
help out a little bit. And the more people that volunteer, the less like time you have to go technically, if that's a concern of yours. But I know that all of these local charities, all these local people, they're really accommodating and they
Hmm.
want to make sure
Yes.
that you don't feel overworked and they just want to help support you and you're supporting them. And then you build connection with other volunteers as well. So
Correct.
I'm glad you
Yes.
brought that up. I didn't even realize that could be an option, but I think that's a
Yes.
great idea to go out and do.
Hmm. And sometimes there's so many things to do. You almost get a little overwhelmed and think,
Yeah.
okay, how can I fit this in my day? Because I
Hmm.
like to I like to schedule my day, and I get up in the morning and quiet, and then I used to get out first thing in the morning and exercise, but now it's
Hmm.
been a little chilly, so I kind of hit the computer and do my work, and then I feel so fortunate that comes 11:30, 12 o'clock, I can go take my lunch break and get out for a walk or get
Mm,
out on my bicycle for an hour, and
yeah.
just because I really believe in health and wellness, and I still have my own little yoga and meditation practice that I do myself at home. And it's very important to take care of
Yeah.
ourselves, which
Yeah.
at times we neglect our own health.
Yes.
So we all have to hold on finding that balance for me.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
So
Michelle, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. It was super awesome to learn more about you and then about your journey here in Flagler and your journey coming into real estate. I didn't even realize you were technically that new. I just figured she's been here forever. It sounds like she knows exactly what she's doing. But I love that's the mindset that you have when going into business. So again, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. And for anyone listening, thank you guys so much as well, and I will see you next time.
thank you,
Bye.
Macy, and we'll see you at the next coffee connection.
Definitely.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye bye.